Hello, friends. My name is George Lernis, and I'm extremely excited to be back at the Danilo Pérez Foundation for my third workshop. In today's presentation, I will be talking about my personal approach of making connections, the connections of bringing my traditional music, and culture into other genres such as jazz, right? And also my experiences being an immigrant in the U.S. with with my traditional background playing other styles of music such as jazz. In addition, in today's presentation, I will be showing a few videos of myself playing in jazz projects and exploring these ideas. And also I will be demonstrating some examples of myself playing on my percussion set, combining drums from different cultures. So I really hope you enjoy this presentation. I'm going to share my screen now, and I'm going to begin by playing for you an original composition. 1 second. So I will begin by playing an original composition of mine called Widening Our Circle that I recorded 3 years ago, featuring some colleagues of mine. Fantastic percussionist Jerry Leak, also a professor at the prestigious Berklee College of Music. In this video, he's playing the tablas. In addition, we have Bertrand Lehman, a fantastic drummer and percussionist, as well as a professor at the prestigious College of Music, Berklee College of Music, and a fantastic singer that also plays oud in this composition, Mehmet Ali Sanlikol, and myself on darbuka and other percussion. It's worth mentioning that in these compositions, I incorporated different styles of music, such as Indian. I have Indian influences, Middle Eastern influences, African influences, and a few instruments like the oud, and that particular is in the composition we used a Turkish rhythm in 9 that you're going to hear. The video is quite long, so I might be cutting it short. But I highly encourage you, if you like this, to go on YouTube and type Widening Our Circle with my name and check it out if you wish.
Dum dum takita dum dum takita dum dum takita dum. Takadimi takita takita takadimi takadimi takita ta. Takadumi takita 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 takadumi takita ta.
Thank you. So I hope you enjoyed that, and let me move to the next slide. So as we could hear in the video, there are different drums, but also I forgot to mention earlier that the drum that Bertram Lehman, the percussionist on the right, is playing is actually the kudums. It's an Ottoman drum, Turkish drum. Ancient drum, in matter of fact, and they've been used in a lot of in the past. They were used a lot in Ottoman classical music, in court music specifically, and they're made of steel body but have camel skin on them, and they're played with mallets. Like the mallets you saw have the front of the mallet have a leather cushion, so they have a harder sound, not as hard as a stick, but not as soft as like the mallets we use these days with the really soft padding. It's something in between. So next, let me go to my slides. One drum we didn't get a chance during the last workshop to talk about, or the first workshop, is the frame drum. And before we move into some interesting concepts today, I would love to cover this drum because it's a very important drum in the Middle Eastern regions that we should cover during these workshops. And I will mention a few facts about the frame drum. The frame drum is actually one of the oldest drums that ever existed. Yeah, we know it dates back, to at least 1000 BCE, and we know that from artifacts in Mesopotamia, from Iraq. And actually, in matter of fact, a lot of these artifacts depict women playing these drums, mainly, like a lot of iconographies, paintings, and sculptures depict women playing these drums. They were used in ceremonial music, spiritual music, and actually many shamanic cultures as well use these kinds of drums. Structurally, they're made of wood and skin, some kind of animal skin, usually goat. But I will be explaining all of those during the presentation video I have for the frame drum shortly. Here we see three images of women playing these drums, and the left one is actually an artifact from Mesopotamia. It's actually a sculpture, and we see in the middle we see another depiction of women playing this drum. This is actually from the pyramids, and then we see a painting on the right. And it's worth mentioning because these days we see a lot of males playing these drums, but we know that historically it's not the case. We know that it was like 90% of the time women, because there's very few depictions of actually men playing these drums. So I thought it's interesting to share this. So let's look at a short presentation of the frame drum. Hello friends. The next drum I have here with me today is a frame drum. We know that in the Middle East and Mediterranean regions, this kind of drums has many different names from region to region, right? And for example, I'll give you a few. We also call this the bendir in Turkey. Also the daire. Daire is a little bit different because daire has a set of symbols on it, right? And we know from this workshop that symbols are called zils, which means symbols. For example, in the region of Epirus, Greece, we have the Pirotikon Defi, and in addition, we can call this the Ondaharas. In addition, I would like to mention that this is one of the oldest drums that ever existed. We know for a fact that this goes at least back 3,000 years. And how do we know that? We know that because there's a lot of depictions of women playing this drum on iconographies, artifacts, and in matter of fact, on the pyramids, there's a great, depiction of women playing the frame drum. In addition, we know that this drum had to do with spirituality because of the tone of the drum, which you're going to hear. It has a beautiful tone, a meditative tone. For example, a lot of shamanic cultures use the frame drum. And yeah, let's see how this sounds. I'm gonna play a little bit so you can get the feeling of it, and then I'm gonna explain the drum strokes. So I used different kinds of strokes and some advanced one, but today I'm going to show you the three basic ones. And the three basic ones, always in the Middle East when we're learning percussion, is the dum, the pa, and the tek. So to get the dum sound, which is our bass, we hit in this area of the drum, close to the rim, a little bit inside, with our thumb. So what I'm doing here is I'm throwing my thumb on the skin of the drum, and then I immediately push back to let it breathe, right? You don't want to do this and choke the drum. You want to make sure it breathes, right? Get this nice open tone with the tail, right? The next two strokes we call them the teks. To get these sounds, you have to snap your ring fingers with your thumbs. With both hands. So ring finger and thumb snaps. This is our tek sound. Tek, right? So we know the dum and the tek, and also the tek with the left hand. In addition, to get the pa sound, we basically play a muffled tone in the middle of the drum. I curve my fingers a little bit, and it's this gentle muffled tone. It's not a slap, right? So if I play the rhythm using the slap, the pa would sound like this. Right? And this is the frame drum, friends. Great. So let's move on. So next, I would like to talk about what are some ways to introduce elements from our roots and cultures into other genres of music? And actually, this is a difficult question. This is something I'm still working on till today. And these are some of the ways that I came up with, right? That works for me. So the first way I'm thinking is by introducing instrumentation, right, to other styles of music. For example, in my case, I am from Cyprus and I play traditional instruments such as the frame drum you just saw. So one great way to do it would be introducing the frame drum into jazz, for example, right? Finding ways to introduce it in a tasteful way, or the instrument, or the darbuka, or my rek. So that's the first way that I was thinking. The next way would be to introduce a rhythm, you know, from my culture. Like there might be a particular rhythm I like. For example, the rhythm we learned during the first workshop, the Karchilamas, the one in 9. Maybe I can use that to write a composition, you know, a jazz composition, and that could be the influence. Another way would be modes, right? Scales, musical scales, like for example in the Middle East and as well as other parts of the world, wherever you're from, every country has, you know, their own musical characteristics, and it could be a mode, a scale. So we could take one of those modes and compose a piece on it, right? Or introduce that mode and scale during a solo. The other thing I was thinking about was like poetry, right? It can be a poem from our country, or art. It could be a painting that gives us inspiration to compose a piece with like an imagery, right? So these are some of these ways that I was thinking, and I am exploring, but I also want you to think about this and think what are some ways like you can bring elements from your culture to other genres of music. I think it's really interesting. So let's move to the next slide here. I have a short demonstration of myself playing a traditional instrument, the darbuka, and combining it with a 12/8 Bembe African rhythm. And I personally think it sounds pretty cool, but you're going to decide. Let's check it out. Hello, friends. So right here I have my percussion set, and as we discussed in the workshop, I like to bring together drums from different cultures and traditions, and I will be explaining about I will be explaining my setup. But before I do that, I would also like to encourage you, whatever instrument you come and you know, from your traditions, experiment blending it together with other instruments. You know, like you might find two drums that work very well together, or two pots and pans. You know, it doesn't even have to be drums. Like you can make your own sounds. That's the cool thing with percussion. Many things can serve as percussion instruments. Even this little like shoe bells I made on my own. I got a piece of string and attached them on. So right here with me, I have my darbuka, as I talked in the workshop, and then in my percussion set, I also like to have a djembe. I love the low tone of the djembe, and it's a nice contrast between the two. As you can see, I have a floor tom type of drum, traditional drum from Spain, with deer skin and different kinds of effects, right? Like my cymbals, my charanga, different like kinds of bells, and even gongs. And I'm actually sitting on a Peruvian cajon. And this is kind of my usual setup. I sometimes switch hand drums. I might be holding a frame drum with my left hand or a rack. But typically I like to have, you know, a set kind of like this. So let me play a little bit for you, an African rhythm actually, 12/8 Bembe, right? And for those that don't know what Bembe is, I will be teaching it in the following part of the workshop. So let's hear the Bembe. Okay, so during that solo, if you could hear, I was basically with my right hand playing the high bell pattern, or we call it also the Bembe, right? And I would love to actually teach you this, some of the patterns I was playing during that video. And there's many ways we can do this. You actually do not need to have a drum to do this. You can actually sing it, and use also our hands to clap or even walk. If you're standing up, you can even walk. And another cool thing you can do is you could find that if you have kind of shaker you can put in your socks, or things that make noise, you can make like a rattle, right? So when you step, you can make some noise. So let's first learn the high bell pattern. And just so you know, when we're in African music, usually these kinds of patterns we're playing in on traditional bells, something like this. As you can see, this is a double bell, right? It has a low sound, and the high sound, right? And the pattern is, we're going to learn it like this. First of all, let's make sure we know it's in 12/8. So when we count this, it feels like this: 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 1 2 3 tak, 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 tak. It's this triplet feel, right? Tak, 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 tak. Now, the bembe pattern goes like this: sang sang si sang 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 si sang sang si sang 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 si sang. So what I'm doing is, for all of my quarter notes, as you can see, I'm saying sang, and for my eighth notes, like I say si. And if you can see, I wrote the quarter notes down in the note of F, and then the eighth notes, I wrote them on C, right? So let's try this together. Sang sang si sang 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 si 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 sang. Now, if I were to play this with a bell, if you have one, if not, you can actually practice clapping it. But if you had a bell, you could do something like this. Si sang sang si sang 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 si sang, right? Or if you don't have a bell, you can even reverse, right? Instead of singing the high bell pattern, you can just clap it. So si sang sang si sang 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 si sang. Now, next we have the Kagan pattern, if you can see right below. And the Kagan, actually in Africa, is a drum. It's a Kagan drum is a long barrel drum that they play with sticks, right? And it's also made of natural skin for the head. And the pattern that drum plays is actually the Kagan part, which sounds like this. Kagan, 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 Kagan. Also, it's worth mentioning that during the video of my solo, I was playing the Kagan with my left hand on my darbuka and singing it, and that's one way to like incorporate rhythms from different cultures with instruments from different cultures. For my example, I was playing this on a darbuka, but I thought it was working fine. So one way you can practice this is singing the Kagan and playing the quarter notes. Kagan, 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 Kagan. And keep in mind that the Kagan is on 2 and 3. 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, 2, 3, right? So let's do it together. 1, 2, 3, 4. Kagan, 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 Kagan. Now, let's move to our last part. This is something I was playing during the video. It's the Todoji part. This is very cool as well because Todoji is also a drum. And with this drum, they play the Todoji pattern, right? Which goes like this. G, to, G, 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 to, G, 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 to, G, 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 to, G, G. And the way they play on this drum is the G part, the G stroke is muffled. They muffle the first one, and then the todo is the low ones. G, to, G, 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 to, G, G. But if we don't have a drum, we can sing the Todoji part and clap the quarter notes with our left hand. Let's try this together. 1, 2, 3, 4. G, to, G, 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 to, G, 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 to, G, 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 to, G, G. Now, I know this is a virtual workshop, but I encourage you, if you have a good team of people, if you have 3 or 4 people or even more watching this workshop, you could play a game like splitting the class in 3, and one part is singing the high bell, the bembe, one part of the class is singing the Kagan, and another one dithology. And that this can be a lot of fun hearing the layering, right? And when I was playing with my drum on my darbuka on my percussion set, I was layering too. For example, my left hand would always be doing something different than my right hand, and sometimes even be singing something different, right? So that's a very cool way to practice. So this is the lesson, and please feel free to practice this on anything you have available. If it's pots and pans, just make your own little percussion set. Thank you. So let's move to the next slide. Okay, so next I'm going to play a video for you all. This is a recording I participated in. I play traditional percussion. This is a recording by a fantastic composer, Mehmet Ali Sanlikol. He wrote this album. It's with the What's Next big band, featuring Dave Liebman, the famous Dave Liebman saxophonist. And basically this record is really special. We recorded this just 7 months ago, and it incorporates a lot of traditions, right? It incorporates Byzantine traditions, Turkish traditions, so a lot of different influences here, and it's all combined with jazz. This is, in matter of fact, a big band jazz album. So I thought it would be really great to play this for you, and please enjoy. Great. So I hope you enjoyed that. I thought, this was a good example, of what we're talking about. Like for example, Mehmet here, Lisanli, called the composer, you know, um, begins the song introducing a lot of, elements from his culture, right? Turkey. He's a Turkish composer actually, and I think he does it very tastefully too. It doesn't feel to me at least forced. And also I thought the animation is pretty cool idea that he came up with this for this EPK, this promo video. He had someone do the animation showing dervishes dancing, the dancers turning around. That's a Ottoman tradition. It comes from the dervishes, which they actually dance and keep spinning and spinning. That's another cool thing to check out. But yeah, and that's one of the many projects I'm involved with, and that's also something I'm working on my own for my own projects. I introducing my culture into jazz music. Um, so the next thing I want to talk about is the other side, and this is something that happened to me, when I came to the U.S. I realized, it's difficult. This is difficult introducing new ideas into jazz music or a traditional instrument. You have to be tasteful with your approach. But one thing that happened to me is that when I started traveling back to Greece or Turkey to play traditional shows, now having jazz experience as well, being a better musician, I was introducing stuff I learned in the US into traditional music back home. And I actually realized that sometimes they didn't like it. The musicians I played with were a bit, they gave me a little bit of resistance. And I was thinking, well, why, if I can do that with jazz, why can't I take, my jazz skills and introduce them to traditional music? Exactly the same thing, right? And it's been very tricky for me, Many times I'll play with traditional musicians, and I might try to improvise a little bit, and they don't like it. They might say, no, that's not how the tradition is played. You have to play this rhythm that way, with our subtleties. And it's been very difficult for me. So I wrote a few things here. One thing is, do you agree with that? Do you think that traditional music should be just left alone and be played the same way it was played for 1,000 years without, evolving? I don't know. Maybe that's your opinion, and I respect that. If that's your opinion. In my opinion, like a musician should evolve. That's my view, and like I think there are ways we can approach traditional music too, tastefully. Add new elements and ideas. The other thing I wrote here is, how do we break the system and introduce new ideas and approaches? And that's something that I find very, very difficult. Um, One thing I'm thinking is you have to do it in a very tasteful way, very much like Mehmet doing it with jazz. When you introduce elements from your culture, you want to do it in a way that serves the music too, right? You don't want to just force something. And for me, when I perform live with musicians in Greece or Turkey traditional music, I try to add ideas or embellishments on my drums that don't take away from the tradition, but at the same time, I'm also creative, right? So it's a fine line. And it's very difficult sometimes. Sometimes I can accomplish it, sometimes I cannot, but I like to try. The other thing is I mentioned here is we doing these kinds of experimentations. We have to do them while we're being respectful of other musical tradition and culture. Same with jazz, right? When I go into a jazz environment and I try to make these connections, I always try to be very respectful of the music. So my next slide to end my workshop, actually, I would love to end with this piece, and I thought this is a very nice piece to end the workshop. It's with Vasilis Kostas, the lauto player that was here during the last workshop from Epirus. This song is called To Χωριό, and actually when Vasilis came to the US, we met at the live show I was playing, and then we became friends, really good friends. Actually, he's one of my best friends right now, and we started jamming. We had like weekly jams. We would meet every week and just play together and come up with ideas. And actually, this song To Χωριό, which means the village, was conceived out of one of our jams. And I want to play this for you because this piece is not a jazz piece, but it's not a traditional piece either. It's basically like it has a traditional vibe, but at the same time we improvise a lot and create. So I thought it's a great way, to show that how, like you can have a traditional kind of melody and then improvise and get really experimental with it. And then it's worth mentioning that there's a fantastic singer in this song that comes for the last section. She's singing solo improvisation, vocal solo improvisation, also known as Amane, and her name is Burcu Kulec, a Turkish singer. And please enjoy. So, friends, I really hope you enjoyed this workshop. It was a tremendous honor being here at the Danilo Pérez Foundation, and I believe that this workshop will be followed by Q&A, so I will be here to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.